Hello. Welcome to the last part of today's Portal 10 program. It will be about LARP for youth and made by young creators. Welcome. We have 8 of them, 8 speakers. Welcome all of you.
6 of them young.
I will be speaking from behind the camera because it's a lot of them and there is no place to stand for me in between, but that's okay. I want to give the voice to them. Just to introduce the speakers, we have 8 of them, but coming, as I see it, from 3 groups, or at least 3 countries. So we have Slovenia, with Valentina Mandzhieva, Anja Lotte Kastelic, and Bibi Eriavec. Thank you for coming to Portal and sharing with us. They are from the new NGO called EREA, which is based in Ljubljana, Slovenia, and they are also closely associated with the Gimle LARP that happens once a year in Sweden. We have 2 people from Hungary, Bálint Márk Túri and Fanny Hajdu. Thanks for coming and sharing on Portal. They are associated with the foundation called Parallel Worlds, but also we're speaking today about the Alliance of the Known Realms, which is a kind of LARP game organized since many years in Hungary. Thanks for the presentation that you had before. And we have a group from Poland. We have Gabriela Kruszona, Ala Kuchta, and Roni Korycińska joined us in the last moment. Welcome. They are associated with, they also work organizing the PanCon festival and many other LARP festivals and big events in Poland, and also are experienced tutors or teachers on the LARP summer camps with the something that if we translate it to English would be the Fantasy Fortress or Adventure Seekers. So, sorry if I mistranslated you.
I went to the
Microphone.
Okay. Poszłam do konkurencji. She changed the company.
We do not want to promote any companies, just let's stay with you just doing a lot of LARPs on summer camps and having a lot of experience with this. I'm very happy to lead this panel because I prefer learning from younger people than teaching them something. So I want to give the voice for you. We will speak about challenges, community, learning and alliances, but let's start with the easy thing. So let's start with the community. I heard a lot about your LARPing and what you do in LARP. I wanted to go to hear more about the impact that it has on your community, developing, new relations, how it is, how it impacts your social life and the communities you develop because of your part of big LARPs that you do.
We after Gimle we decided to promote Slovenian LARP scene in our city, and we Anja mostly established her first LARP that she designed with her friends, and it's about pirates. That is very, I think, crucial because we don't have a lot of LARP communities in Slovenia, especially even though it's kind of a biggest city of the country. There are only 2 right now active running LARPs, and Anja can tell you more about her experience as a LARP designer.
Yeah, thank you. So basically, when I went to this Gimle LARP, and I got a sense of how it is to organize bigger LARPs, how to do these certain things, and I also became a faction leader. I got a sense of how it would be to design a LARP myself, and I figured, hey, it's maybe not so unachievable as I thought before. So with a friend, we just started discussing how much we love pirates. So that's how the pirate LARP Tales of Erea was born. we've been running now for 2 years. 2.5, I think. Well, the Corona years are just somewhere there in between. So we didn't have many LARPs because of that. But we are planning to change that.
And promote the community, because right now we are starting to network with other organizations, organizations for role-playing activities, for D&D, and I see a great potential in them, because they have 100 other participants coming from all over Slovenia that actually haven't LARPed yet. So I think it's a great way to introduce them for LARPing.
That also really, just to briefly say, to touch upon that, this experience, and also very largely all these educational things we've been going through, like for TC, like training courses and so on, and for example, this the week before the portal project that is, we've now played a bunch of chamber LARPs, like shorter print and play LARPs and so on, and we have now decided we're going to be putting that into our Slovenian community, which is like a very new thing, because we've always been just running campaign LARPs and so on. So now we are trying to, because of this international experience, bring all of these things to our Slovenian community and embellish it, make it more rich in the content with that.
In my experience, what we are trying to do together with Bálint, even though I'm not strictly aligned with Parallel Words, the organization that is led by him, is to bring together all these communities that are organizing fantasy camps, like we do in Hungary, because as we said in the presentation before, there are 15 running right now in Hungary, but they are all completely different from each other, and a lot of times they are not even communicating. There has been a Facebook group that tried to put them together, two even, still not working. And our intention is to create a forum, to have a conversation on how each of us is working, what's the pedagogical approach, how we are doing our things, and what's behind. So what's the theory, what's the intention, and to make it a bit more conscious, basically. But in also, and I will pass it to you in a minute, sorry, in another respect, when you ask about community and what is the impact of what we are doing, I also think of the children, of the youth who are participating in our camps, and what is super important for us is the feedbacks, like also coming from them directly, and to see them spending their time together and also becoming more and more open and more not just playful, but also empathetic with others, and also the feedbacks that are coming back from their parents, because it's just amazing how grateful they are about how they get back their children after the 3 weeks that they spend with us. And it's not just because they've been away for 3 weeks, I promise.
Yeah, and I also want to add that this Hungarian EduLARP tradition is very much parallel to any other kind of LARP activities that are ongoing in Hungary, and we're also working on creating cross-pollination with LARP, not just within Hungary, but also international scene, and exchanging ideas and methodologies. That's been also part of the work. I think that's it for now.
I like the fact that you're not actually working with Bálint, and yet here you sit on Portal 10 in Krakow speaking about the LARPs you have done together or planning to do. That's a good sign.
I'm LARPing of working together with him.
So an example that LARPing brings people together to other events after LARP. Good.
All right, so first things first. Okay, all right. Anyway, things first. Jesus, I cannot speak. That's your fault. First things first. We can speak about community, speaking about youth camps that we work on, and also we can speak about a broader community. Firstly, we see on these youth camps. I attended them for more than 10 years, in fact. I see like they are creating this amazing community which is very accepting, which is very inclusive, and I see how it's just a great community that is also connected with LARPs. And also LARPs are great opportunity to do a little bit of this introspection, a little bit of searching of who I am, and also it's a really, really safe environment for this. So every queer kids have their safe space on our camps.
Just before the pandemic hit, I also created a group on Facebook where we casually talked about LARPs and stuff. So when the lockdown happened, we had like this space when we could talk about LARPs, but also bond together, playing games and stuff like this. And what happened a year later was that I was like, I wanna make a convention about LARPs, and I wrote on Discord and on a group, hey, if anybody wants to take part in my project, all the details will be tomorrow on Discord. Whoever is interested, come. And like 20 people came, and I was like, hey, listen up, we're making a convention. When? In 6 weeks. And we did this. We make online convention about LARPs, where were online LARPs and also RPGs, so we could have bigger target than that. And few hundred people attended. They were on Discord because we this is where we made this with all the event fan page, doing it all from the scratch because none of us had any experience at all. And the group that was organizing it was me. I'm 23 at this time, and I was second oldest. And many of them were actually second because you are first. Because many of them who were taking part were underaged people who just wanted to be a part in something bigger and wanted to do something. And they obviously they had their task made adjusted to their capabilities, because we also talked about this. But we made a big convention in 6 weeks from what happened to be a small Facebook group. And I think that's amazing, and that shows that there is a lot of energy and that people just want to do the things, but need like this community to work better, because the bigger the community is, the more we can do together. That's the fact.
In fact, in 2 years, we are doing Polish LARP conference. So we asked the group. So yeah, it's growing.
Czy to będzie Kola 2000? Would it be Kola 2023?
Yes.
2024.
Four. 3 black books do the 2023.
Is it gonna have any content in English in case guys are interested here?
We don't know yet. maybe, but we don't know yet.
We will speak of it.
Thank you. That's a good answer.
But if you want to come actually, and we will know that English-speaking person will come, then we will certainly talk about this. And
I think we make it happen just like this.
Yeah. we like you, really.
Okay, thanks for the warming up and the community impact. I'm impressed by everything that you're doing. It's so like powerful in my eyes. But I wanted to ask you about challenges. Challenges when you organize a LARP for youth or for young people, whether they are teenagers or like 20 years old, 25 years old, still young people. What are the particular challenges that you need to face when speaking about the LARP design, LARP production, all the logistics, or all the, you know, inclusive things that you need to care of? What are the challenges, and do you have any good examples how to overcome them?
I actually have a very relevant and very recent example. I organized, it wasn't called a LARP, but we basically made a scenario. I worked for this science, art, interaction, modern research art facility. And we have these 10-week, 3 hours every Friday workshops that have this central theme that's mostly about some relevant current topic. Ours was food of the future, and in like relation to that also climate change and like end of the world and all that. And we basically, instead of just having a string of unconnected workshops, we did this. It wasn't LARP every time, but sometimes we had a scenario that they had to follow, and they had to like really get into their roles and imagine they were 200 years in the future, and either they were in space and they had to role play how they would grow their plants in space, or they were in the past and they had to ferment their, not past, they were in this low-tech post-apocalyptic scenario, and they had to grow their food and like raid a seed bank and stuff like that. And it was really interesting because our workshops are for children from 9 till 15 years. And children that were like 9, 8, 10 were very invested in every scenario, and were very like, yeah, well, let's go, let's write like a letter to my grandma about tomatoes on a seed paper from a seed bank. And then children around 13, 14, 15 were like, they had this kind of a shame ingrained in them already. So it seems like younger children are natural born LARPers, and something happens later. We got to them like in the end, they got into it as well, but it's interesting to see this kind of a very clear spike in shame and embarrassment that happens, and for some people it stays later, other people become LARPers. So yeah, I think it's interesting to see such a close a group that's close in age, but still has this very different approach you can have to take to make them like inhabit a role, basically.
Society happens.
Society happens, true, yeah.
What I experienced is very similar to what you just explained. Is that in our camp, bigger kids have this, this approach that, okay, I don't want to play anymore, or I want to, like last year we had some hippies, like hippie characters, which is a good initiative, but at the same time it's not very playable after a while. And it's hard to somehow find a balance between involving them and putting too much effort maybe into trying to involve some people who are maybe not that interested in it. So we have a couple of kids who are really enjoying to come to our camp, but they seem to not enjoy or not want to be so involved in the LARP elements. And for us it's a big question how to deal with that. Do we have anything to do with that? Is our task to make them play, or shall we just let them enjoy their holidays and this community, because this is the majority I think of the reason of them enjoying being there is the community, and it's the atmosphere and the surroundings, which is also very nice, and who we are to judge.
Maybe one more thing that I would add is what is really challenging is to create safety, a safe environment, because this tradition, where it's coming from, it's not necessarily safe in its all aspects, and that is something that requires a conscious rethinking and replanning and changing. And I think but this is something we've been making steps towards too.
To be honest, I have other issues I wanted to put the point on. For me, the problem is the increasing amount of teenagers with mental issues or disorders. I actually, for the last 2 months, I was doing in my city workshops for becoming a game master, for being a player, and it was actually hard for me because, for example, last one was this week, and I have like this 3 ADHD kids that are great. They're really great, but they can't just stay still and quiet during the workshops, and I don't really want to punish them at the same time for being so, because I know that it's not their fault, but I try to separate them as much as I can, and that's one thing. I also remember having like this kids with autism who was really challenging for me, despite doing everything I could do to accommodate him, and I did in the end. But those are the challenges that I don't know nothing about. The society knows very little about, and the mental health care in Poland is also on really, really low level. It's only getting worse. So I don't expect it to be better in the next few years. And this really saddens me, because then I get this like very cute and all 20-year-old girl who really wants to LARP, who really likes the idea, but then she starts LARPing and she have panic attacks and she don't know why. And then it's my responsibility, because it's on a camp, I can't ignore her, to accommodate her as much that she goes over those panic attacks and is able to LARP. It took me like 3 days to manage that, and as a person who is not mental health specialist, in fact, I'm like chemist in my real life. I'm doing my master degree right now, and it's all I'm doing this because I talk with my friend who is a psychiatrist, and I sometimes ask her things, because there is no way to access like those kind of wisdom, how to deal with children after pandemic with mental health issues who are neurodivergent, and that's what I think is the hardest part for me.
So, yeah, I also would say that it's really, really hard when we've got kids with these mental issues. Like, it's the hardest part. I also thought about the thing that we are talking about today, Ariel. And I mean that in our LARPing community, in our camp community, there used to be this toxic approach to playing hard triggering games. It's like all big topics, so it's bad idea to get in details right now, but I hope manage to somehow make it better. Anyway, I think it was quite an issue. It's that the kids were trying to be more mature by being more triggered, by dealing with harder stuff. So I would say that mental health, kids trying to be more mature than they are, or not understanding what it means to be mature. And also I wanted to say something and I just forgot, because I have ADHD.
So give it to me. And I think another part is parents, because we have many problems with parents of kids who are participants in our camps, because, for example, parents didn't inform us about health problem of their kids. So in the middle of camps, for example, we knew that our kids under our guardians have, I don't know, depression or you know, so something like that. So it's hard because when you know it sooner, you can manage this. But if something happened, some crisis, it's harder to deal with it. So parents are the problems, and parents parents. Kierownik? Our commandant talk with parents who are like, my kid is the best, my kid never do the problems, so no, he can do this. No, it can't be like that. So yeah, I think the mental health and parents, it's the main problem of us.
I wanted to say about the problem you were speaking about, this with teenagers that didn't want to, act silly. That it's like community problem, in fact, because when they are the oldest and they have like kids who are like super hyped, they think that it's like kid thing to be that hyped. In our community, it was like the older kids were super hyped, but also it meant that the older these somehow like almost sacred figures for younger children, and that they firstly were super hyped about LARPs, but it also led to this toxic culture, because younger participants were learning toxic behaviors from the older ones. And that was why we couldn't just, wait 3 years and then boom, we don't have any problem. These kids just, these toxic behaviors just disappeared, because every year, every new participants were learning the same stuff from the older ones.
If I may, a very earthly challenge for us, at least, is money. Because it's very different when you as an adult person decide out of your own budget what you give for a LARP, and it's very different when you have children. And a lot of the times we have whole families coming, so like 4 kids from the same family, and we don't find it fair or very, thoughtful to ask for the full amount, the full price of the camp 4 times from the same family. But I think that it's also about our geographical situation, something that we also share, so I don't believe that we are in a very different situation. But yeah, money is definitely a challenge here.
If I may, I would also like to add 2 more challenges we see in our Slovenian community. One is regarding the players, because we are a very young LARP community, generally. We are still figuring out how to tap into the player base that is there, but is not yet LARPing. In fact, we decided we're going to be more proactive about it, so we actually started, we did a questionnaire, spread it, all over to the communities, to the friends, and so on. I think we got like 50+ answers, which is a lot for Slovenia. 60? Okay, that's a lot. And if I'm not mistaken, around half of those are from people who have never LARPed before. So this is like a good number, and we are actually exploring what are the obstacles preventing people who know about LARP and are interested in LARP, but preventing them from coming to their first LARP. So we are going to be having talk on that tomorrow. 10, yeah, probably. So if you're interested in that, I think we can delve deeper into that, and probably also a Q&A question, so we can continue this conversation, I think. But also like the second set of challenges, I think arises from the LARP community, because for the longest time, for example, in Slovenia, well, the longest time meaning like 6 years, don't get confused about that, but we've had, for example, very unconnected LARP communities. For example, we have a fantasy, like a more standard fantasy one, which, yeah, medieval fantasy one, and which was the first one, for example, and then naturally then, for example, the Vampire the Masquerade community also started a bit more internationally for Slovenia, and then also, for example, our Pirate LARP. And the problem we immediately encountered was, okay, there was a bit of, perhaps like salty or like bad blood between some, oh, you're doing an event on our date and so on. Like, we want to do an event then. Stuff like that, but also from the player perspective, because as a designer and now studying to be cognitive scientist, I keep thinking it from, like the player perspective. And definitely what came very into the into the front was the fact that players who wanted to join LARP either did not know that it exists in Slovenia, which is a problem of communication and like size of the community, but also we don't have one entry, like one easy entry to everything. We try to make it happen. Sadly, it didn't happen yet. At least we've been really trying to do that, but now at least we've managed to solve the situation by creating like a link tree that like leads like a master link to a link tree which leads to all of these different communities, and we're very psyched about it. And I think we're already seeing like an improvement there. But I think this is also like a very big challenge. Also, another very big one for Slovenia. Like I think we have like. From the main city, you have around 2.5 hours to get out of the country and all of the ends. Okay, we are a small country. And yet, if you organize a LARP that's outside of Ljubljana, people constantly have such big problems coming there. So transportation, I think, is also like a very big challenge. Maybe, I don't know, can you relate? You're also like a...
I don't know if anything is happening outside of Budapest.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, camps definitely, but we are going there from Budapest. We have very few kids coming from elsewhere.
I think I'm related because when I was teenager, it's so hard to be somewhere outside of my city if train doesn't get to this place. So convention, for example, it was a problem for me, and I think it's for more people. Transport is everything.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like just to talk about the fantasy camps. It's a very much Budapest-centered tradition.
You spoke a lot about challenges. That's good. To sum up a few of them, those young people have mental issues, and sometimes it's problematic or painful somehow for them or for the organizers if they play in a LARP, or even more challenging for the organizers. You also stated the financial side, that a lot of young people, I guess, do not like earn a lot of money for themselves, so somebody has to take the money from somewhere. Also mentioned parents. If there are any parents listening, please do not be another challenge. You mentioned like the dispersed communities, LARP, like lack of unity within the LARP communities in the countries, transportation problems to go to LARPs somewhere else, and it also is like maybe more problematic for younger people, younger players than the older ones. We know the challenges. Do you know of any good examples, tips or tricks how to solve some of them?
I do. Sorry, I'm just trying. Speaking of the mental health issues of young people, I just want to point out that it's not all the young people who have them. We all have them. And it's perfectly fine and very welcome. But I think at least one of our ways of trying to, well, not to solve it, but to, deal with this aspect is that we have like a security net sort of thing. So we have a contact list with the numbers and names of specialists whom we are related to. So anytime when we have a problem, we can actually ask them even during the camp. And we also prepare in a way that after a while, our camp, like I just started to do it last year, but after a while, the ones who were doing it were recruiting people who had some professions that were useful to lead a camp. So at the beginning, the ones who started it were people who were players themselves, who were attending these camps. But then they also started to reach out for drama educators, teachers, psychologists, and other mental health professionals as well to to be able to add to the tradition and also to give their expertise.
Just want to add that I think your camp is really unique in that sense, and I hope but it's also a good example for the future camps, I hope. And this list, I think every camp has this kind of list, more or less officially, I hope. But I think we're also working on for future camps to hand them these lists. Okay, these are the people you can contact if there's something that you need help with.
I think we should introduce you to our company because because we must dealing with this problem alone. So yeah.
In fact, it's really helpful if we actually know that problem exists. Like when parents don't try to hide it.
So parents' documents are important. We gave these documents for something.
Yeah, like if kid has any kind of illnesses, please let us know. It's really important. Thank you.
Sorry, can we lower the voice that is like our voice coming to us? Because it's really echoing.
Yeah, all right.
That's why I started working with LARP camping company that provides us social therapists on the place. We have like one at the time on camp, so they can help us with any problem whatsoever with any participants during camp.
I have perhaps a bit silly, and I don't know if it's widely useful, suggestion for ADHD kids, because about half of the kids I teach are ADHD, like very aggressively so. And I'm also ADHD, so I'm on the wavelength. And what I do whenever they're like acting out, if they're bored because they don't get like the stimulation they need, I give them something extra to do, which is normally draw me a crab. Because crabs have like a lot of legs and a lot of parts, and they're so invested into it, they hyper-focus on the crab, and they kind of get the little stimulation buzz they need, and they draw me a great crab, and I have a crab. And this is not like, just give them, and I'm not like speaking down to you, because I know you know ADHD too, but just like give them something more to do, and they'll do it, and they'll like leave the rest without... But that it doesn't work always, but it's something I do when I encounter them.
So about money, if you want a young player on your LARP or something, you maybe should thought about dopłacanie do biletu. No tak, ale jak to po angielsku powiedzieć?
Subsidized tickets.
Yeah, subsidized ticket because the young people have very little money. So if you maybe they can pay something, but not like a lot. So maybe you can help them, and they will go.
Yeah, but for us, this is the problem. We give subsidized tickets for everyone, and we don't have enough of money to make the camp.
Yeah, a camp is a different place. It's more about doing LARP by yourself, not as a camp. Yeah.
Also, I wanted to. Firstly, back to ADHD, because I also wanted to tell that when you've got a little bit older participants, also let them use their phones. Probably they have like the special app that has like some mindless game that will help them to focus on what you're speaking. And they are not doing this because they are not paying attention. They are doing this to pay attention. Yeah, all right.
Also, just a little note for us, it's a huge help that also among our facilitators there is someone who has ADHD. So it's a very nice way of sensitization for us that he can somehow introduce us to this word and help the kids who has a similar condition, but also give us some tools or tips what to do in a certain situation. So it's really nice to have this diversity also among the facilitators.
Speaking of money also, this is what I think was your idea, that when you've got like, you can, when you're making an event that is like not really expensive, like from the cheaper one, you can write on the, just, you know, somewhere, put a note that if the money is problem, talk to me. Sometimes you can make, you can you can save some money by having another person who will help you do something. Like you won't have to pay for this when somebody will just do it for free. And sometimes that's all that, you know, young people need. They have free time, then they don't have money. They, you know, maybe money is
They can't work.
Yeah, they can't work.
No, so actually, to be more precise, because now I know what Ronnie means. So I actually put that note on my labs that if money is an issue, then you can talk to me and we will work something out. And it means that that person can help me with production of the LARP, because I'm doing them mostly all by myself, and I need sometimes help with setting it up, with tidying after, and that's the help that is meant, obviously, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
In terms of money, it's on in terms of money and how to cut your cost. Recently, we found that one organization that provides a free space for other non-governmental organization to make promotional, educational projects, and like with that, we didn't have to pay for rent, because usually, if you want to make a event, even if it's like, you know, just for donation event in Ljubljana, you have to rent a place. And maybe what's interesting, what will be helpful, just to look on the other organization, or maybe non-governmental, non-profit organization that already have a space. Maybe they can provide you with it for your projects, in order for you to, for example, lower the cost. Because usually, what we are doing is not very profitable, and we are doing it mostly for our community. And
Also about the money, perhaps. I know that some Slovenian communities now, they're not in LARP, yet they are in role-playing games. But they, for example, started to sort of do lightweight sponsorships. That's how one could call that. For example, not long ago, actually, we had like a costume contest, like a something completely meant for fun, you know, if it was for boosting creativity in like the community and so on. And there was this. It was a store, like a game store and so on. They actually like donated, like, you know, a set of dice and so on, and they were mentioned, of course, because of that. Like, we're very grateful that, you know, people are even like trust us enough, you know, as a community to do something like that. And it's beautiful to see that, because it actually means that you're also getting your word about yourself out there. It's not about selling yourself out, you know, in that sense. It's just like these lightweight sponsorships can be very beneficial for you. Yes?
As an example of lightweight sponsorship, on the last LARP event, the homemade ham and cheese were donated from the local farm, and it was very nice. And because the medieval setting is actually very nice for this homemade ham, and a lot of players enjoyed it, and also they get to know about this eco farm. And what's interesting is that a lot of orcs also enjoyed it very much. And, you know, imagine just having a photo of an orc, like full armor, with your ham, with your bread, just standing there. I think it's hilarious, but also it's very alluring for other people. Like, it's not usual kind of promotion. It's very, I would say, creative and unique in a way.
I mean, it goes without saying that it should be like very, you know, to the point and not overdone and so on. But yeah, every so often it can really help.
Okay, I have one idea about transport. More convention in Poland do this, but if you do a convention outside of the city, of the big city, you should do the transport list. So people who have cars give their names there, and people who are from the same city was like, yeah, we go with you, and it's good for everyone because kierowca, driver pays less for fuel, and we have teenage can go to the convention. Yeah.
Just to tell you, we have 5 minutes left. We went into details, and I love it. So let's try to wrap it up because it's like more or less time for each of you to speak for like one more time.
Any other questions? Solutions, problems that we can deal with.
Okay, you want one more question? Here goes one more question, and I want to hear your ideas.
Yeah.
We were speaking about LARPs played by young people mostly. Let's now focus about LARPs made by young people. And you have definitely more experience than myself on LARPs made by young people, because when I was young, I never made a LARP. I learned about this stuff when I was already older than young, so I know nothing about it. I played a few LARPs made by young people, but I would like to hear your opinion. What is special? What is different? What is a new quality or an innovation or something unexpected in the LARPs which are made by young people?
I just want to say that I made my first LARP when I was 13 years old. Thank you.
So actually, I've seen many LARPs made by underage people, and the one thing that I think we as a community should be responsible of, that when we see somebody who wants to make their first LARP, we should play them, and we should at the first give them advices how to do this, because it's a very long process. They don't know, they don't even know how long it is to create a LARP. And I've seen LARPs that were like, oh, I was on camp and I want to make a LARP, so I will ask all the other participants to send me their character sheets so I can have this LARP here at home. And the ideas of how to have a LARP without writing one are extremely crazy. So I suggest you to just encourage them to do LARP by telling them how, and maybe writing something so you don't have to repeat yourself.
And I think the LARP's production, because they don't know where do the LARP, how do the LARP, how do the, legal stuff or money stuff or everything. Sometimes they have LARP, they wrote LARP, but they don't know even how to get the place. Yes. So that.
I have to say that I don't quite agree. But it's because I come from a different setting. So in our camps, young people are experiencing these things, and they do it on their own. Like they have the motivation and they have the ideas. And it's amazing to see what they put into it, because we can, come up with a lot of different ideas, but we will never come up with the ideas that they have. So they have the other side of this whole thing. And it's amazing to see how natural it comes to them. So the thing that I would say is to support them in a way, to give them space, to give them space to create, to try out, to make errors, because that's one of the most important things, and to be there for whatever they need. And if that's advice, then advice. If that's, I don't know, something else, then for that.
I think sometimes it's not a problem that they don't have not pomysł. Idea. They don't have skills to do LARP as a LARP, do the design of LARP.
So, so for us, it's been ongoing throughout generations, like growing up, being in the camp, and then starting their own camps. And within the camp, they created, like most of them had experience creating games for themselves and for others. But I think the big challenge is when leaving the camp and starting their own, is to how to, like, of course, practical things, and also to keeping in mind the pedagogical aspects as well.
Yeah, and just on that, sorry, to provide a framework, like after when they come out of the camp, or when they are already in that phase when the magic can be revealed, or at least some parts can be revealed because they are preparing to provide the magic for others. It's important to give them the frameworks and also to speak about safety, because they experience these things and they were really taken care of, but they were not aware of what's going on behind. So we just made this forum 1 month ago, basically, that was intending to involve these young people who are preparing their first camp now. And we were speaking about these things that they weren't aware, but then they became conscious, like how important it is for female facilitators to play powerful roles, to be also there and not just to provide and do like the traditional female roles that are also there in a camp, etc., etc. So yeah, it's to give the context in this.
I just wanted to know really quickly that I absolutely agree what you said about giving them space. I didn't thought about this really. Give them space, but also talk with them about different theories to make LARPs. Let them have their way, but firstly let them know what the options are and be open to help them, but not to have them by hand do what you can to do how you always do it. Let them have their own way.
Yeah, I mean, just wanted to add, it's not just safety, but to also create a safe and empowering space within the camps.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I would say that as in Slovenia, most of LARPers are over 18, because most of LARPs are also over 18 years of age. And definitely when we started doing the pirate LARP and so on, we had a lot of help from other organizers from other LARPs, especially around production and so on, because the story usually, if you LARP for a while, it comes more naturally. But definitely I agree on that, like also help them with the story. I would say to respect their own pace, to respect their own ideas, and I can foresee that for someone, like for example me, if I would have learned about safety and all different techniques you can make a LARP, that would, for example, would be overwhelming. So just, take the person you are with into consideration. Yes, on the other side, you asked about specifics of young people designing LARPs. Well, everything seems new to us. We don't know about the whole history, we don't know about, this and that LARPs and that mechanics, so we can try to innovate some things that were already innovated, discovering the hot water, for example. But at the same time, I think we can also offer a lot of new perspectives on some things, and also a lot of engagement for communities that have a reason nowadays, for example, very concurrent, I think is a word, like for example, for the series and so on, the hype of the society that is currently, I think, is sometimes more perceived by also younger people. And it's very lovely to see that in Slovenia we tried to help one person who had very big motivation, but unfortunately they were below 18. We tried to help them create their own LARP. We even had like a presentation, really enabling them to gather participants. Sadly, it didn't work out because it's hard for that one person to make a LARP if they don't have a supportive environment. Working on that, but yeah, so a lot of everything seems new to us, but we can offer a lot because of that.
I think that's why teaching is important, because young people can do so more creative than discover hot water again. Yeah, so if they do not
if they know hot water exists, they don't need to discover it.
So they give us a dinner.
Just Yeah, just one thing is that when young people create LARPs, that actually also shows us what's interesting for them. And it's very important because we cannot, I mean, you can, but we cannot find out what's interesting for an 80-year-old. And it's amazing to have it from the first hand.
2 minutes left, so
yeah,
last
I can
words.
sum up that actually we as also young creators, we also have to educate ourselves in order to be able to help other people educate them. So it's a sort of a circle of education, and these, for example, LARP festivals or LARP conventions are such an amazing possibility for us to exchange that knowledge and then to return back to our country and then to boost up our community of young people or like peers. Yeah, education is the key, and it's important for every one of us. Doesn't matter if you're a teenager or if you're a student or if you're like older person. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much for sharing with us all the backstage of, LARPs for young people and by young people. I'm still curious, like, what can be so special about LARPs made by young people, but I would sum it up with a conclusion that better than asking you would be to go and play those LARPs, and I will discover it for myself.
Yeah.
We are going on LARP part. I'm young.
Great, thank you very much. Just an announcement that